Welcome everyone to our Sunday evening Dharma and Sutra talk. So we have studied the 10 great vows of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. For the previous sessions, we have learned all the 4 great vows. And today we'll talk about the 5th vow, to rejoice in merit. So first of all, I'd like to rejoice in all of your merit for joining us tonight on a Sunday evening when you can do other things. There's so many other things you can do, but you choose to come here to listen to a Dharma talk, to study the Dharma. So really rejoice in all of your merit. And before we begin, I will invite you to please join your hands to your heart center, and we'll read the Sutra opening verse together. Namo Fundamental Teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. The unsurpassed, profound, subtle, and wondrous Dharma. It's difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of kalpas. I now see and hear it, receive and uphold it. May we understand the true meaning of Tathagata. Namo Flower Adornment Assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo Great Practices Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Okay, so before we go into tonight's discussion, I would also like to make a quick announcement. And I believe most of you have already known that we are currently on day 1 of our 7-day Nianfo retreat, or also known as Foqi retreat. So Foqi in Chinese literally means 7 days of Nianfo. So 4 means Buddha, Qi means 7. So 7 days Buddha, 7 days of Buddha recitation. So in Pure Land temples in China, we usually have a Foqi retreat every month. So in our temple, usually we have Foqi retreat on the 3rd week of each month. But unfortunately, due to COVID, we are again closed. So it's not so easy now to conduct Foqi retreat in temples. Fortunately, we have this amazing technology. Also rejoice in merit in whoever creates internet and all this wonderful technology and all these wonderful tools, so we can have online Nianfo retreat. So I propose that we will have monthly, every month, 7-day online Nianfo retreat, and starting on the 3rd week of each month. I think this will really greatly enhance our practice and also deepen our faith and vow towards going to the Pure Land. There is really, at least to me, nothing more important than this in my life, and particularly during this chaotic time in the world where really anything can happen. Impermanence we see is happening all the time in our life. It has always been happening all the time in our life, but more so nowadays, if we watch the news, like all kinds of tragedies, disasters, and even wars. So it's really an important time, a critical time for more people to come together and to Nianfo, and also vow to seek rebirth to the Pure Land. And also, I hope more people will know about this wonderful Dharma and can practice Nianfo with faith and vow towards seeking rebirth to the Pure Land. Okay, so I hope all of you will be joining us in our 7-day Nianfo retreat, and also every month from this month. And we'll begin on the 3rd week each month, but we'll make announcement online beforehand so you will all know. Okay, so in our previous sessions, we talk about the first 4 vows, and just a quick review, like what we usually do before the session. So the first vow is about to pay homage to all the Buddhas. And by Buddhas, we don't just mean those Buddhas who have already realized enlightenment and full Buddhahood, like Shakyamuni Buddha and Amitabha Buddha. Rather, these Buddhas also include the future Buddhas, That's all of us and all the beings, because all beings also share the same Buddha nature. So that's why to pay homage to all the Buddhas is really telling us to respect all beings, to not to look down at anybody, to try to see the Buddha nature in all beings. So a Buddha always sees the Buddha nature in all beings. Amitabha Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, they always see the Buddha nature in all of us. That's why they have this infinite compassion to always come back and to save beings, because they know that the Buddha nature is within you. They know that you have this potential to also be like them, to realize full Buddhahood. They were also like us before, ordinary unenlightened beings. But because they uncovered this, they knew also they have the Buddha nature. There's other, made the other Buddha tell them about that. And they generated bodhicitta and practice for countless eons and to realize Buddhahood. So now after they realize Buddhahood, similarly, they will also do the same to help awaken all other beings. And that is why we should also respect all sentient beings, to not look down at anybody. This is regardless of how their current behaviors are, regardless of how their body, speech, and mind may be like. We do not need to focus so much on their current behaviors. We just know that they are also the future Buddhas. We should also respect them, and we should also try to see the Buddha nature in them. And second, to praise the Tathagatas similarly, because all the beings have the Buddha nature. So Tathagata is also another word for Buddha nature, or Tathagatagarbha. So in Chinese, there's just one word, 如来, which just means Tathagata. So Tathagata, Tathagatagarbha in Chinese basically is translating almost the same. And they really both mean the Buddha nature. So again, to praise the Buddha nature in all beings. If we know that they all have the Buddha nature, we all share the same Buddha nature, of course, we'll also praise this. And again, not to be attached to how they are currently, right? Because a lot of afflictions we generate in our everyday life is because we may judge how others people may behave, their body, speech, and mind, right? Because of this judgment of others, what other people do, right? What we think other people do wrong, etc. So it can create a lot of afflictions for us. However, if we remember their Buddha nature and also try to praise their Buddha nature, use our speech, our language, our words smartly, intelligently in a way, and this way will also reduce a lot of afflictions in our life. Just remember that even the people you maybe really hate, maybe you speak ill all the time, right? He or she also has the same Buddha nature like you. And Amitabha Buddha will also save this person. Right? If anyone want to go to the Pure Land, Amitabha Buddha will all welcome. As long as they are willing to believe in Amitabha Buddha, they want to kneel for and vow to seek rebirth. Amitabha Buddha welcomes all because Amitabha Buddha sees the Buddha nature in all beings. So that's also the spirit, the way we should learn from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, to try to remove, maybe we cannot really completely remove our mind of separation yet. If we really have no separation, then we are already Buddha. If you don't have attachment, you are like an arhat. If you have less separation, you have no attachment, a little bit of separation, you're like a bodhisattva. Even bodhisattva has some kind of separation, and the higher the level it goes, the less the separation. When you are a Buddha, completely no separation, you really see the oneness in all things and all beings. This is not just mere saying, but rather you are living in this embodied experience of oneness where you are really one with all things and all beings. There is no more the difference of I, you, he, she, etc. When a Buddha used the word I, this is only a way of convenience. He doesn't really have this I anymore, no longer attached to any of this personal I, personal self. No more attachment to any of the illusion of personal self, and also no mind of separation. So it's really by studying these vows, really helps us to expand our mind, expand our heart, and to tolerate all beings. When I say tolerate, I don't mean like it's a negative word, oh, I tolerate you, but I really maybe want to kill you. It's not like that. It's more like to really embrace, to really see we are all from this one family. We are really oneness. We all share the same Buddha nature. So really try to see that aspect. If our mind can be like that, basically, why we Nianfo? When we Nianfo, we also recite the name of Amitabha Buddha, infinite light and life, which is also the Tathagata Gaba, the Tathagata, the Buddha nature, the true nature of the mind, the true nature of the self, the true nature of the heart, whatever you want to describe this. Basically, the true essence of who we really are is infinite light and life. Not only us, but all beings, including even those maybe terrorists, including those worst evil being in the world, they still have actually this infinite light and light within them. It's just that they forgot. They're totally ignorant of it. And also like us, we also forgot. And maybe one day we'll remember. So when we recite the name of Amitabha Buddha, it's also a way to help us to activate our own Buddha nature, and also a way to help us to see the Buddha nature in others. So what is Nianfo Samadhi like? It's when you can see the Amitabha Buddha in all beings, when you can see the infinite light and life in all things and all beings. There's no longer any separation. So you really live in the Pure Land with this kind of mentality, with this kind of state of mind. Can you see? If in every moment of your life, you think of Amitofo, you think of infinite light and life, whatever you see, regardless of what it may be, to you, your mind is like Amitofo, infinite light and life, infinite light and life. Then you are really enjoying this infinite blessings and infinite bliss, infinite peace and infinite happiness, infinite abundance in your life. And of course, you are living in the Pure Land. So our environment is also created by our mind. And if we want to live happily now, we also really need to try to expand our mind, expand our heart, and to understand also why we are Nianfo, and to try to see the Buddha nature in all beings. This is how we should try our best to direct our mind. Sometimes it can be really difficult because we may not used to think like this. We may be more used to picking out the faults in others and maybe speak ill about others, or maybe try to look down at other people. So this could be our sort of a habitual tendency when we look at other people through our mind of separation and attachment. But if you think about how the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, how their mind actually work, is that they really try to see the Buddha nature in all beings. So because they respect all beings and they praise the Tathagatas, and of course they will also extensively cultivate making offerings, because there's no more attachment to the self anymore. Sometimes why maybe we don't want to give so much to others, because we are attached to, oh, this is mine, this is mine. Whereas if you can really see the oneness in all things and all beings, when you can really expand your heart, then naturally, it's actually a natural process for you to want to give more, to make offerings. So in 6 parameters, we say giving, but here it's really an upgrade. You're making offerings. You want to make offerings to all the Buddhas, including all the future Buddhas. And by doing this, it really also helps us to overcome our attachment to the self, our habitual tendency of being selfish. Selfishness is very common for all the beings here in the Saha world, perhaps. And through doing this, through extensively cultivating making offerings to expand our heart, expand our mind, to overcome our attachment, to not be so selfish, it helps us to awaken our Buddha nature, to awaken all these original virtues and merit and blessings that really lie within all of us. And remember, actually, how the law of karma works is that the more you give, the more you make offerings, the more you'll get in return. So the Bodhisattvas never concerned about not to get anything back. They clearly understand the law of karma. And also they're not attached to whether they will get anything back or not. That's even infinite merit. When they practice making offerings, it's just a natural. They just do it without even thinking. Non-abiding. With the mind of non-abiding, they cultivate making offerings. And by doing so, they attain infinite merit. This is also talked about in the Diamond Sutra. So they don't just practice giving for the sake of wanting things in return. Right? It's not how the Bodhisattva's mindset work. Whereas for us ordinary beings, when we give, maybe immediately we may expect something in return. So, and that somehow actually discount what we will originally get in return. Interesting, really, how the law of karma works. Right? The less you ask for anything, and the more you just give, the more you'll get in return. But when you give with a very calculated mind and expecting already maybe a lot in return, then you may not get as what you could have originally get. Okay, very interesting and actually quite logical, right, if we think about it. So the fourth is to repent of karmic obstacles and reform. And remember, we talk about karmic obstacles just means that any negative thought, speech, behaviors that can make us suffer. If you are unhappy now, it can be like a karmic obstacle. Right? Maybe a thought you generated or an act that you did that make you unhappy, make you suffer. So any kind of a act that block you from getting in touch with your Buddha nature, with this infinite light and life that is within you. So how to repent about karmic obstacles? It doesn't mean that we should just keep dwelling in our mistakes, maybe tell the world about it and keep blame yourself again and again. So that's not what we mean here, but rather to repent of karmic obstacles is really to face our mistakes, right, with the right attitude, right, to have the courage to face our own mistakes, and also to have the willingness and sincerity actually to want to change, to reform, to improve each day. So really a cute comment I received on YouTube is this person is saying, yeah, this sounds really good to repent of karmic obstacles and reform. But when we make vow and promise like that, like I will not commit a certain mistake again, but in my mind, I know that I'm most likely gonna keep committing it. So while making that vow make me like a hypocrite. So very, very cute comment. So it would not if your vow and promise is sincere. So of course, as ordinary unenlightened beings, it's most likely that we're just gonna keep committing the same mistakes again and again, maybe until one day we really learn, right? Even for us Buddhists who have taken the 5 precepts, like how many of us can actually carry out the 5 precepts perfectly, right, without committing any of them in one day? So I'm not gonna even talk about in our whole life, but just in one day. And maybe not, every day, maybe we keep breaking the 5 precepts that we already took. And also whatever other mistakes that we vow or promise not to commit again. So it's common, first of all. I just know that this is just where our level of ability is at. Right? This is where our level of practice, and not much practice right now. But still, if we still have the sincere heart that we want to be better, right? Maybe not to be perfect like Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, not yet, but if we have the sincere vow and promise that we want to improve each day, then even if we commit again and we also again repent sincerely. So sincerity is really the key here. Right? We repent sincerely, and then also we make vow not to commit again, also sincerely. And of course, we may again keep breaking, and then again we repent sincerely. This is really like a constant practice and habit we need to cultivate. And through this, gradually, slowly, day by day, we may see the improvement in ourselves. And I'm also sharing this from my personal experience as well. Of course, we make vow and then we again keep committing maybe the same mistakes. But really, if you have this sincere intention that you really want to be better, you really want to be more close to the Bodhisattvas, to Buddhas, you really want to learn from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, you have this tendency that you want to be better and you want to be awakened on this path, then gradually it will improve. Maybe it can take longer for some of us, maybe for some of our mistakes because of a strong habitual tendency, but still just have this sincere willingness to want to change. Then this is not hypocrite. What's hypocrite is maybe you are not good, maybe in some kind of behaviors, but you pretend that you are perfect. And that's what we call a hypocrite. It's like you pretend, or maybe you put it out there that you are maybe like a perfect enlightened being, right? But in fact, you're not. Right? So that's what we call a hypocrite. But if you have the courage and willingness to face your own mistakes, with the right attitude, and also have the sincerity to want to change and to improve, and gradually you will get better. Yeah, trust me on this. And particularly when we are learning these vows and also Nianfo, we will really receive the great assistance from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And a lot of maybe heavy karmic obstacles that we think we cannot change, we cannot transform, as time goes by, if we keep our practice diligently and we keep our heart of sincerity, this, you will definitely get better. So if we can just apply the first 4 great vows in our everyday life, maybe not 100%, yeah, we cannot do that yet because we still have very much maybe the strong mind of separation. Maybe it's still difficult to see the Buddha nature in all beings, to praise all beings, to extensively cultivate making offerings, to repent of karmic obstacles and reform. Not easy to do, easy said and done. But if we can even just apply them, maybe like 10%, maybe 20%, 10%, if not 5%, if 1% in our life, it can already make a drastic change in our life to make our life much better. You will already be in a much positive mindset, and it will really help us to awaken our Buddha nature. Remember, all these 10 great vows are actually for the purpose of awakening the Buddha nature that's within all of us. So remember, the Buddha Dharma is not only to tell us to do good, to refrain from evil, but rather the true purpose of why we are learning the Buddha Dharma is essentially to awaken the Tathagata, the Buddha nature, the true nature of the mind, the true nature of the heart, the Tathagata, that's within all of us. This is the true purpose of why we are learning the Buddha Dharma. So through these 10 great vows, by practicing them in our everyday life, it will help us to awaken our Buddha nature. Maybe in this life a little bit difficult, but definitely when we go to the Pure Land. But if we can apply them like these vows, maybe a certain percentage in our life, and we Nianfo, your Nianfo practice will take in a different quality, definitely, a much higher quality. One can Nianfo with very narrow-mindedness, maybe angry about the world, about everything, blah, 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 keep complaining all the time, and then they Amitabha, Amitabha, right? But this is, they're not really Nianfo with their heart. It's more like on the surface, with the mouth, but the mind is just totally chaotic. They don't know how to apply their thoughts, their minds correctly. But if you Nianfo and then you practice these 10 great vows, then your Nianfo practice will just be so much better. You will really see the Buddha nature, or at least try to see the Buddha nature in all things and all beings. Instead of complaining about others, you praise others. And then you can always find a good reason to praise others. At least, if there's no good reason, remember this: you have the Buddha nature. Instead of blaming others, you learn, maybe I should repent of my own karmic obstacles. Instead of being selfish, you think, oh, maybe I should cultivate making offerings. So all these are very useful and practical in our everyday life, right? We can really totally apply them in our life. So Buddha Dharma is not mere theory. Right? If one is well versed in whatever theory in Buddhism, right? Actually Buddhism is not theory. It's actually all about practice. The sutra is like a live manual. The sutra is like an instruction, right, to tell you how you should practice in your life. So we shouldn't just study the sutras or just be attached to words, but forget the most important thing is actually to try to practice in our life. Buddha Dharma will only work if we're willing to put it into practice. So that's why practice comes before vows, practices and vows. Okay, so today we're gonna look at the fifth vow, to rejoice in merit of others. So this is again a very practical tool we can immediately apply in our everyday life. So first, let's look at a sutra. Moreover, good men, to rejoice in merit is explained like this. Throughout the Dharma realm and the realm of empty space, all the Buddhas, Tathagatas, are as numerous as the fine motes of dust in all the Buddha lands of the 10 directions and the 3 periods of time. When they first generated bodhicitta for all wisdom, they diligently cultivated the accumulation of blessings without regard for their bodies and lives. They did this through kappas as many as fine motes of dust in ineffable Buddha lands. During each kappa, they gave up their heads, eyes, hands, and feet, as many as fine motes of dust like ineffable Buddha lands. They cultivated all the difficult and aesthetic practices such as this, and perfected the various gates of the paramitas. They realized the various bodhisattva grounds of wisdom and accomplished the unsurpassed bodhi of all Buddhas. Upon their parinirvana, their shariras were divided and distributed. I completely rejoice in all their good roots. Really very beautiful, also very detailed description from the sutra. So before we go into that, I would like to look at a key concept, the key concept we are talking about tonight, to rejoice in merit. And what does it really mean? What's rejoicing in merit? So rejoice, it means happiness, joyous. So merit, again, merit is just anything, including our act, our speech, our mind, right? That can help us to activate our original Buddha nature. So again, when we talk about Buddha nature, what does it mean? Infinite light and life, or all the virtues and blessings that are already within us. So this merit can include maybe a tiniest good deed. Right? Maybe sometimes if we see someone that needs help and then we go help them, right? This generates good merit. Right? From the tiniest good deed to like incredible great deed, such as realizing full Buddhahood. Right? This is also merit. So everything that can help us to activate our original Buddha nature, to help us activate the virtues and blessings that are within us, and that's called merit. So to rejoice in merit, this vow, what's so useful of that? And when we talk about rejoicing merit, we mean like other people, like what other people do, like what maybe other people say or they act. We rejoice in others' merit. So this can immediately help us overcome afflictions such as jealousy. Jealousy is also one of the karmic obstacles, right? That can make us suffer, make us really not happy. If we see other people maybe richer than us, more beautiful than us, more intelligent than us, and more diligent than us, sometimes we may have maybe a bit of jealousy towards others. But when you think of this vow, instead of looking for trouble for yourself, instead of generating afflictions for yourself to become jealous, remember to rejoice in the merit of others. And what is so good about that is that when we can see the good in others, when we can rejoice in merit, it can also inspire us to help improve ourselves. It can help us to actually want to improve ourselves. And maybe if we see other people, they're more diligent than us, we rejoice in their merit, and maybe I like to learn from them. And also through doing this, merit can actually be shared. When we rejoice in the merit of others, we also share a little bit of that. And why is that? Well, because even this merit, like we say, all the virtues, merit, and blessings are actually all within our Buddha nature. When we rejoice in the merit of others, it automatically helps us to expand our mind, right? Expand our heart. And of course, this activates our own Buddha nature. And of course, through doing this act, like simply just to rejoice in merit of others, we also generate merit for ourselves. So this is really like win-win situation. So we really need to cultivate a habit to try to see the good in others in our daily life. If we see other people that may be richer than us, rejoice in merit. And maybe because in the past, they have really extensively cultivated generosity. So in this life, they maybe enjoy abundant wealth. We should really rejoice in merit of others. And maybe we say, oh, but their money come from maybe illegal sources. They should not deserve that much money, etc. Maybe sometimes we also see like that. But remember, if they can actually enjoy these blessings, regardless of how the blessings may come in what kind of form, maybe in just this period, it definitely means that they had cultivated generosity in the past, or otherwise they would not actually enjoy the kind of blessings like they have now. How long they can keep the blessings, maybe we don't know. Also depends on what kind of merit they may cultivate in the past. But if we see like maybe others enjoy abundant wealth, etc. in their life, we should also rejoice in the merit of others. If we see other people more beautiful, more handsome than us, rejoice in the merit of others. To have good look in this life is also not a coincidence, actually. So according to the Buddhist Sutra, if you want to have good look, you can make offerings, flowers to the Buddhas. So this is actually a real law of karma, how it works. So for those who maybe want to have good appearance, good look, then you try to offer flowers to the Buddhas, to Bodhisattvas, and you will be blessed with good look. So why is that? Because when other people, when they see the beautiful flowers, they feel happy, and this generates merit, and the merit also goes to the person who made flowers as offerings. Actually, a real story. So in our temple, recently there's this really beautiful girl that came. So I think she also wants to take the monastic life, and she has really good look. And it's actually not surprising because she makes flowers as offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas all the time. So in this life as well, so maybe also in past life for sure, but in this life, she had a flower store, and all the time she made flowers as offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So a secret for those who want to have a good look. Okay, we're not attached to good look either. We are going to Pure Land and we will have the best look there for sure. So if we see others maybe more diligent than us in our practice, also rejoice in the merit. So all this, we can always try to find a reason to be happy if we can really see the good in others. And sometimes our habit is actually maybe not to see the good in others, but rather to see the not so good side in others. And then we maybe complain about it all the time. But remember this vow, to rejoice in the merit of others. Try to see the good in others. And through doing that, it also helps to activate our own virtue, our blessings, and we'll also share the merit of what others did. So win-win situation. Okay, we go back to the sutra again. So here, this whole paragraph is really talking about how the Buddhas, the Tathagatas, they found when they were ordinary beings, like they first generate bodhicitta, like us, maybe now, if we generate bodhicitta for all wisdom. So the Buddha's wisdom is like all wisdom, all encompassing wisdom. At the level of Buddha, it's all knowing. So that's why it's called all wisdom. It's actually a Buddhist terminology. In Chinese, it's called 一切种智. Sometimes we see the translation as also all kinds of wisdom or all encompassing wisdom. So they diligently cultivated the accumulation of blessings without regard for their bodies and lives. So the whole paragraph is all talking about, it's actually talking about how the Buddhas form an ordinary being who first generate bodhicitta, and the kind of process, how they realized Buddhahood and what they did actually. So look at what they did. They diligently cultivated the accumulation of blessings without regard for their bodies and lives. So they did this throughout kalpas as many as 5 modes of dust in ineffable Buddha lands. And during each kalpa, they gave up their heads, eyes, hands, feet, as many as 5 modes of dust, like ineffable Buddha lands. They cultivated all the difficult and aesthetic practices such as this and perfected the various gates of the paramitas. So paramitas also means like loosely translated as perfections, wisdom. So this is really like how incredibly diligent the Buddha did, and also look at this, the accumulation of blessings. I think someone mentioned in one session, oh, but the Buddha didn't talk about blessings in the sutra. Maybe he didn't read the sutra, or he didn't read. Actually, in a lot of Mahayana sutras, the Buddha always mentioned blessings. So the Buddha cultivated the accumulation of blessings. It's really actually important to cultivate blessings. Remember the 6 parameters we talk about. The first is giving. The 6 professions of the Bodhisattvas. First is giving, to cultivate the blessings, to give, to be generous. And in the 10 great vows, we also talk about to extensively cultivate offerings, right? So we really see the importance of why we actually need to cultivate blessings, because by doing this, it really helps us to expand our mind. Now, why we don't want to give is because we are attached to the self. But through practicing giving, through expanding our mind, it can really also help us slowly let go of the attachment to the self or our possessions or whatever we think that belong to us, but actually, not really, always impermanent. So it's important to cultivate blessings. And the Buddhas, they did this accumulation of blessings. So really incredible. And it also talk about us in details, like how they actually did this, without regard of their bodies and lives. For ordinary beings like us, or even for those who don't understand the Buddha Dharma, they are very much grasped, very much attached to the bodies. They think the body is mine. They identify maybe the true self with the body. So they think when the body dies, they also die, like game over. So it's not like that. So the Buddhas, when they were bodhisattvas, when they first generated bodhicitta, they encountered the Buddha Dharma, they understood this. They knew that the body is just temporary. Even this body is actually not the most valuable thing. For ordinary conventional beings, they would think that this body is actually the most precious. If they don't know about, consciousness actually lives on forever, if they don't know about the Buddha nature, Tathagata, then they just think, oh, this body is the most treasurable, most valuable thing they have. So, they will not give up the body for anything if they can. Of course, this body is just temporary. We all have to die. We all have to eventually let go of the body, whether we like it or not. So the Buddhas, knowing the truth, they completely disregard it. So they would even give up their heads, eyes, hands, and feet. And not only that, as many as 5 modes of dust, like ineffable Buddha lands, like the numbers of Buddha lands. And we talk about there are also infinite worlds in the Buddhist cosmology. Actually, in truth, there are infinite worlds, infinite universes out there. And they will give up their heads, eyes, hands, and feet. It's really so difficult for us to even imagine. Can you imagine now giving up your head? So in the Buddhist sutras, there are many stories like that, where Shakyamuni Buddha talk about his past lives, how he cultivated the Dharma. And really, I think there was one story at one time, he gave up his eyes or something, just to try to hear one verse from somebody about the Dharma. That is really dedication, diligent. And also remember, Shakyamuni Buddha come into this world as Prince Siddhartha. And Prince Siddhartha, through the 6 years of his cultivation, when he practiced aesthetic practices, he almost gave up his body. I remember for 6 years, he only ate very, very little, almost like close to nothing each day until he was really literally on the verge of death. That is really the spirit of how they would pursue the unsurpassed Bodhi, the unsurpassed enlightenment. Of course, later he told us, oh, it's actually not necessary for you to give up the body. But it's like really just the spirit can we see. They treasure the truth, the Dharma, the unsurpassed Bodhi more than anything, and more than their bodies and lives. They'd rather, they can, if they need to, give up their bodies and life for the sake of realizing enlightenment. Of course, we actually don't need that, but this is just really the spirit. And they have performed this already many, many times. Really incredible, inconceivable. The spirit of the Buddhas and Bodhisattva really always touched me so much. So well, now we have a very easy way to actually realize all wisdom and to realize the unsurpassed Bodhi is to go to Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land, thanks to Amitabha Buddha's infinite compassion and great vows. We don't actually need to give up our heads, eyes, hands, and feet. Really hard for us to imagine. So really we have to be really infinitely, in-depthly grateful, forever indebted and grateful to Amitabha Buddha, to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that try to guide us to the right path, the unsurpassed Bodhi. Unsurpassed Bodhi simply means the ultimate enlightenment, final Buddhahood, Anuttaya Sanya Sambodhi. So many words to describe the same thing. So upon their parinirvana, so after they finish their mission here, so when Shakyamuni Buddha entered the parinirvana, which means nirvana without a physical body, but he did not just die, different from ordinary being who just died and then they didn't know where they might reincarnate again in their next life. The Buddha clearly knows, and the Buddha's Dharma body never disappear. It's always here, and the Buddha's Sabogakaya is also here, the awards body, but it's just in another dimension we cannot see. And also the Buddhas will always have incarnations in our worlds and different worlds to help share the Dharma and help awaken sentient beings. So upon their parinirvana, after the mission is finished, their shariras were divided and distributed. So that's what we see from the Shakyamuni Buddha. He also left many shariras in the world. There are still a few shariras in China here, like real Buddhas sharira, from the bone, from the teeth or something. So incredible. This is also how people to deepen their faith that such things actually exist. And for real shariras, they are actually unbreakable. They're colorful, have very wonderful colors. And if you try to break them with very hard, say diamond, whatever, you cannot break it. You cannot break Buddha's shariras. So this really shows also the great cultivation. So each of all this process, for the Buddhas, we can all rejoice. It's all worth us to rejoice, completely rejoice in all their good roots. So of course, it's easy actually for us to rejoice in the Buddha's good roots and the Buddha's merit. We can easily rejoice in Shakyamuni Buddha's merit, in Amitabha Buddha's merit. But what it may be difficult, next from the Sutra is that, and for all the worlds in the 10 directions, all kinds of beings in the 6 paths and the 4 births, all the merit, even as a mote of dust, I completely rejoice. Okay, so first of all, Bodhisattva Samantabhadra is saying that I rejoice in all the Buddhas, Tathagatas' merit and how they realize perfect enlightenment, like all of this process, I completely rejoice. But not only that, not only I rejoice in those who have already realized enlightenment, I will also rejoice in the merit of all the beings in all the worlds, in the 10 directions, all kinds of beings in the 6 paths. So 6 paths simply means the 6 realms, like heaven, human, animal, Ashura, hungry ghost, hell realms, and 4 births. So what does 4 births mean? It talk about 4 types of births in the Saha world, in general, actually. So first is like emanation, it's like incarnation. When Buddhas and Bodhisattvas come here, that they can sort of manifest a body, right? In Chinese called 化身. And then another one is like from our mother's womb, right? There's also one type of birth. Another type of birth is from moist, like mosquitoes, like they born out of moist. And another is from egg, like some fish, like they come out from eggs, like chicken, like all this. So it's talking about 4 types of birth. The 6th path and 4 birth, all the merit, like all these beings, all types of beings, all the merit, even as a mote of dust, like even like the tiniest thing, I completely rejoice. Like, can we see this incredibly big heart of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra? So Bodhisattva Samantabhadra can really see the good in all beings, regardless of who they are. That there is always a reason for her or for him to rejoice in the merit of others. So this is really like how expansive the heart, the mind of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Right? They can tolerate all sentient beings, to embrace all sentient beings. There's actually always a reason for them to be happy, instead of complaining. For us, it's maybe difficult for us to rejoice in the merit of some other people, right? We just think, and there is actually no merit we can rejoice whatsoever. And look at this, even as a mote of dust, even like the tiniest thing. Yeah, there are maybe in our work or in our family, maybe people that we don't get along with, like we maybe really dislike, but can we still see the good in others? Like, can we actually see there is still some good things in that person? And then we can direct our mind to focus on the good rather to focus on the bad habits. So of course, we're not perfect. None of us is perfect. We have a lot of bad habits, and we commit maybe a lot of evil deeds too. And so are others. It's always easy for us to see the evil in others. Maybe not so much in ourselves, but right, we are very good at seeing the evil in others and to pick up on us and to complain and maybe to enter into argument after. But can we like pause that a moment and then try to see the good in others? Even like a fine mote of dust. Maybe you really think there's really just nothing good, but maybe just if they say something nice, that's also good. So can you also rejoice in the merit of them? If there is really no reason, like you say, there's just absolutely no reason, I cannot find any reason to even rejoice in the merit of that person. It's just so evil, maybe. Remember, they still have the Buddha nature, and that is still one reason. So just rejoice in the merit. Then our life actually becomes really happy because there's always a reason to be happy, instead of complaining, instead of seeing the fault, instead of focusing on the negative side, instead of being disturbed, being bothered by whatsoever that may be going on. Try to focus on the good side. Try to focus on the positivity. Try to give yourself a reason to be happy and be at peace. So that's really what actually the most important thing for us to learn is this from this sutra. It's easy for us to rejoice in the merit of Buddhas, easy for us to rejoice in the merit of the Bodhisattvas, but it may be difficult for us to rejoice in the merit and maybe just those around us, or to extend this to all the beings in all different realms. So really, this is the mind of enlightened beings. And this is why we should come together to learn about this, the mindset of enlightened beings, how they think like, and what they're focusing. Being enlightened doesn't mean that they don't have any thoughts. It's not like they become stones or mountains that there are no thoughts. It's not like that. They have thoughts. The difference is that each of these thoughts are just so positive, like infinite light and life. So that's why they never get bothered by anything. And they can always come to all different worlds to help save sentient beings. Like Bodhisattva Siddhagarbha is in the hell realm, but he's not complaining. He's not being disturbed by whatsoever happening there. The hell realm is actually his pure land, because he has this pure mind. Pure mind, pure land. So if you want to already create your mini pure land here, live in the pure land now, you need to purify your mind. The more we purify our mind, pure our environment, then you can really truly like living in the pure land. Of course, our state of mind now, no matter maybe how much we try to purify, is still very, very far away from the Buddha's mind. And we'll know that when we go to Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land, I really created out of his perfect enlightened mind, the purest mind. That is really outside of our current level of comprehension. Okay, so next from the sutra. So after Bodhisattva Samantabhadra say, I'll also rejoice in the merit of all beings in all worlds. Even like the tiniest thing they do, I completely rejoice. And then next, he kept on talking about all the sound hearers. So sound hearers also means Shravakas, also like a Buddhist terminology. Like this means like arhats, like those people who achieve arhatship. And practical Buddhas, also another Buddhist terminology, which also means another level of enlightened beings. These kind of beings are also called alone Buddhas. They are actually not the full Buddhahood we're talking about, but they're higher than the arhat actually. They realize enlightenment without the need of a teacher. So for arhats, they realize enlightenment through hearing the Buddhas talk about the Four Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Paths, etc. Whereas practical Buddhas, due to the good roots from their past lives, they can realize enlightenment without problem, without actually listening to a Buddha's teaching. So they're also called like alone Buddha, but they have not generated bodhicitta yet. So they're above the arhat, but they're below bodhisattvas. And the learners and non-learners, so again, just all this Buddhist terminology here. So learners means that those who sort of understand the Buddha's teaching, but still they have a lot to learn, a lot to practice for them to get rid of their afflictions, the karmic obstacles, for them to purify their mind. So for instance, all of us are also learners, and also those who are enlightened, but before arhat. So like stream enterer, once returner, non-returner, all this, they're all called learners. They still have something to learn. Non-learners are also referred to arhats. Why arhats are called non-learners? Because they have basically extinguished their defilemental state. They have no more attachment to the self, no more attachment to whatsoever. They have extinguished all the defilemental states, but they still have the mind of separation. However, already you can call them non-learners. They are enlightened. They are also exit the cycle of reincarnation. So they don't need to actually learn anything, except they should really generate bodhicitta. Some of them have also generated bodhicitta. In a way, from the Mahayana viewpoint, there is still more to learn actually for the arhats. Is for them to generate bodhicitta, to try to pursue the bodhisattva's path. But if we were just to talk about, beings who have obtained enlightenment and exit the cycle of reincarnation, in a way they don't need to learn. So they're called non-learner. And the 3 periods of time. So in the 10 directions in past, present, and future, all the merit, I completely rejoice. So not only all the beings in all the worlds, and also all these spiritual practitioners, these enlightened beings. And next, all the bodhisattvas who cultivate immeasurable difficult practices and ecstatic practices, aspiring for realizing the unsurpassed supreme Bodhi, all the vast and great merit, I completely rejoice. So Bodhisattva Samantabhadra here is really talking about like all these different type of being, really, which means like all beings, whatever they did, all these good deeds they do, completely rejoice. So Bodhisattva Samantabhadra also understands all these bodhisattvas who have cultivated immeasurable difficult practices and ecstatic practices, aspiring for the perfect enlightenment, all the vast and great merit, I completely rejoice. So when we talk about rejoicing in merit, there are also 3 levels of rejoicing in merit, 3 grades. So the upper grade is like we learn from them immediately. Like maybe when we first encounter the Buddha Dharma, we know, wow, Shakyamuni Buddha, so incredible. He realized Buddhahood and he told us we can all do the same. We generate bodhicitta and realize Buddhahood. And maybe when we learn these 10 great vows, immediately we want to be like also Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. We want to really practice them in our life. So this is what we call upper grade. When you rejoice in the merit, the upper grade of doing that, it's that you want to learn from them immediately. You want to be the same like them. And the middle grade, it's a bit like you think you cannot be like them, for whatever reason, but you're willing to learn, but just maybe less diligent from the upper grade. And the lower grade is like you think you cannot be like them, and also you cannot learn or do. Maybe you don't have this opportunity for whatsoever reason, but in your heart, you still feel happy for them. You're not jealous. You still rejoice in the merit. In your heart, you think, oh, this is great. If there is any chance, maybe you're willing to also learn from them, be like them. So maybe like an example is that maybe someone is quite rich and wealthy, and then they donate a large amount of money to help maybe solve the world's crisis whatsoever, to combat against hunger, etc. So really rejoice in the merit. If another similarly rich person see this, immediately they can be like them, they want to be like them, and then they also donate the same sum or even more. So like upper grade of rejoicing in merit. Or the middle grade is like maybe they cannot be like them, maybe they just don't have so much money, but they're willing to also donate, also make offerings to the contribute to the good cause. And the low grade is like we cannot do that, like no money, also no opportunity, but still we feel happy for them. We're not jealous. So it's a bit like that. So if we can cultivate this attitude in our life, it will really resolve many afflictions in our life. This really gives us a clear direction how we should direct our mind, particularly when we see other people are better than us, what we should do, really to rejoice in their merit. So there's always a reason, can always find a reason to be happy in our everyday life, actually. And we can actually really live in peace and happiness in our everyday life. It's really a choice. It's really a state of mind. It's really about what we choose to think, what we choose to speak, what we choose to act in each and every moment of our life that makes the whole difference. So our body, speech, and mind. Like all these 10 great vows are really like the perfect guidance on how we should act with our body, speech, and mind. And if we can follow them, even a tiny bit, our life can definitely be transformed. So last, to conclude, as always, such as it is, when the realm of empty space is exhausted, the realms of living beings are exhausted, the afflictions of living beings are exhausted, my rejoice will never be exhausted. They continue in thought after thought without ceasing, my body, speech, and mind never weary of this deed. Again, for the Bodhisattva, it's just so natural, so deeply ingrained in their everyday life. Moment to moment, never weary of doing these good deeds. So we should also try to make this a constant habit in our everyday life. I made these 10 great vows and practices and vows a constant habit in our everyday life. I try to see the good in others, to praise others, to respect others, to rejoice in the merit of others. And in that way, we can really live with a very positive mindset each day, and to reduce our afflictions, and also to activate our Buddha nature, which is infinite light and life, which is also Amitabha Buddha. So thank you everyone for coming, and that's our session for tonight. So let's do the merit transfer together. May the resulting merit and virtue be distributed everywhere without discrimination. May we all generate the unsurpassed bodhicitta and be born in the land of peace and bliss. So thank you everyone for coming. And I hope you have a good weekend. Namo Amituofo Buddha. Namo Amituofo.